Welcome back to episode 22 of Wyandot Lake, our Planet Coaster 2 water park. Before we get into things today, I just want to say thank you to those of you that have subscribed and like these videos. I know we only have 12 subscribers right now, but every time I see that number gone up, which has been about once a week, even just one number, it gets me excited to keep playing the game and making videos for everyone. With that being said, if you have watched a few of our videos and haven't yet subscribed, I would love it if you took a second to do that. Today, we are going to be working on this area that's kind of a more relaxed and private area. It is going to have a small slide complex and a bunch of larger cabana buildings, which you can see us working on right now. The idea is that these cabanas are kind of some group rental spaces, but I don't know if I see this entire pool area as being a private area where you have to have a rental or some kind of wristband or something to access, or if this is going to be more of just a publicly accessible pool, but we've got these little rental areas off to the side as well. Either way, though, it should be a great area that's kind of removed from the path, so even if it is publicly accessible, it shouldn't be super overly crowded, and so it should really offer a great kind of reserve and recluse away from the main path and the crowds that the park hopefully is going to have during those hot summer days. So a couple things with this episode as we get into it. I am going to break this up into two different episodes. If I left it as one long episode, it would end up being around 35 or 40 minutes in length. So I decided to just split it into two shorter episodes. Part one today, obviously, and then part two will be a week from now. I think moving forward, I am going to try to keep videos to be around 15 to 20 minutes in length. Looking at watch times, it seems that that's about how long people tend to watch the videos for. So hopefully that helps you guys kind of get all the way through it. On top of that, just super busy right now with school, and so being able to kind of cut videos down to that length should really help me with being able to get in and record it and the audio and the monologue and everything uploaded so that I can continue to produce videos every week and we can continue to progress through the park. But that is enough rambling for right now. Let's go ahead and jump into what we are working on right now, which is our first cabana. And the goal with these, as I said earlier, was to try to make a kind of private group area. And I really wanted to make it very decorative, make it very kind of detailed, just to really kind of tie it all together. And so that is kind of what we're going with here. We will also place down some barriers. We'll see that in a minute at the entrance to try to alleviate people walking through walls. We'll see kind of how well that works out, just because the hitbox is a little bit bigger than the actual barrier is itself. So you can see us kind of working here. We end up kind of changing some of this. We're going to try a bunch of stuff here. I will say, you just saw me kind of grab the big fans there. I do wish we had fans in the game. I just think that is something that would be a great way to enhance the game. And so I might go in and I might explore making some custom ones. We didn't do it for right now. Just wasn't really feeling it. But we are going to use something from not the update that came out last week, but the previous update with stores. So we're going to place down a ton of shop objects and everything. And my thought process behind that is, hey, these are expensive cabanas, right? You're probably paying, $200, $300 a day just to reserve this for, maybe 4 or 5 hours. And so if you're going to do that, we as a park need to give you something in exchange. And so my thought is, we could put some cups down, right? So you've got your drinks. We've got some t-shirts for you guys that are complimentary. Of course, our towels are going to be sitting there as we're putting there, so when you get off, you can dry off. We've got some floaties that you can use. Just stuff that can make you as a guest feel, hey, this investment is worth it, beyond just the aspect of now our group, right? I kind of look at this area and I say, this is a really good area for, your kid's got a birthday party. And so you're bringing your kid to the park and, you've rented this out for the day and everyone's there for the party, right? You can put the gifts up on the table and they've got all these toys that they can go and they can play with. They can come in, right? I actually wish this was a feature in the game. But one of the things I envision with this area is waiters and waitresses, right? You have somebody that's coming to the cabana and saying, hey, do you guys want anything to eat, want anything to drink? You can purchase that kind of stuff. And so that's really what I kind of envision here. And then as for the design itself of the structure, we went with this kind of open, kind of tiki look, which I really liked. And you're actually going to see we're going to continue that on the other side. And I don't remember when I recorded this. I think it was after, but one of the people in my cohort actually had a really cool design kind of similar to this with one of their architecture projects. And so you'll see that kind of come into play in a little bit. But it's kind of the same vibe that we went with here. But I wanted it to be open. I wanted there to be this open feel. It's shaded, but it's also not too shaded. I wanted to really bring in the natural light, and so that's why we kind of went with the staggered roof. And then on the front, we did the same thing. We kind of staggered the front just like the sides. But the difference is we put these solid canopies, kind of covers over the front. Reason being is that's going to help give you a little bit more privacy in there, right? They're kind of at eye level. So if you're in there, you're a little more private, but you're also not completely removed from the park as a whole. So I think that's really cool. We'll add in some lights here. Of course, we're going to dim those down. And in next week's episode, I'm going to give some thoughts on some lights. They just are still frustrating me a little bit. We're going to put some light here to light up the wall. And I actually think this looks really well. But you can see where I'm coming from with the costs or the detail of everything kind of being really intricate. So I know a week ago that a new DLC came out, and so let's talk about that DLC here for just a second. So I think there are a ton of great things in that DLC. The light bulb, I saw someone post that is 100% a game changer. I mean, that light bulb is going to be such a versatile object, and I can't wait to get my hand on it. That being said, I do not plan on buying the DLC right now. With being in school, I just need to be very intentional and very cognizant with my expenses. And while there are certainly things within the DLC that we can and will use at some point, the reality is a vast majority of those pieces don't really fit into what it is that we are doing right now with our park. Down the road, certainly going to purchase the DLC, certainly going to use those, but I think that's going to be after the park opens. That's going to be something where it's like, hey, we're going to expand this area, or we are getting into the dry park. I can tell you right now, I have a vision for the entrance to the dry park, and a lot of the pieces in the new DLC kind of take that vision that I already have to the next level. So the DLCs eventually 100% are going to get used. The switch tracks I'm going to have a ton of fun with, but this is a water park. It's not a dry park, and so just don't really see the need for those right now. Now, if we get a water park DLC, 100% going to need that, 100% going to use that. But back to what we're kind of working on right now. We just kind of changed out the colors here a little bit. It took me a while to kind of figure out the right color palette for what we ended up going with, and I'm really happy with what we ended up with. I think it works really well. You'll see when we add the foliage to it that it really does just look fantastic. We also went ahead and staggered the roof there. You can see it, which really kind of helped give some different life to the space and really kind of pull everything together. And then we'll go in, obviously, and we'll change all the colors on everything, make everything custom to the theme. And I have to say, like, it really does just go a long way. Just if you're playing in the game, you're building the game, even if you pull stuff off of the workshop, make sure you just change up the colors. It just really goes a long way to kind of bringing everything together, I think. We are also going to put something on the video screen. I don't have any custom images or anything right now. I am slowly starting to use the Adobe Workshop and learning a little bit more about that just naturally from being in school. And so I eventually do want to go in and do custom screens and all that, but that's not something that we're going to worry about right now. We can do that kind of a little bit down the road. That's maybe a great Christmas break project down the road here in December, where we can kind of go in and do all that stuff. But one of the things I did with this project is instead of taking our cabana, putting it all the way around, and then, filling in the foliage around it, is I went ahead and built the foliage around our first cabana. And then what we are going to do is we are going to copy and paste this all the way around to all of our different cabana locations. And I was a little worried that it would look very repetitive because of how we did things. And I actually think it turns out really well. You'll see when we copy and paste it here in a second that it ends up kind of working out. You don't really notice it that much, but then we also need to go in anyways, and we need to kind of make some adjustments because we have some overlap where some of our side foliage kind of pushes in. And so we have to make some subtle changes, some differences, add a rock here, move this shrub here, and it really does just kind of give it more of a natural look. And I think you don't see that repetitiveness that I was really worried about at the beginning. But I also don't know that having repetitiveness is necessarily the end of the world. I think it is something that just does work out fine, but not overly worried. I think it works out well. So we'll put our lifeguard stands down here. Of course, we got to fire the lifeguards so we don't lose that money while the park is not open yet. But you can see right here, we're kind of going in and adjusting, and this is what goes a long way to kind of adding to the enhancement and making it not feel repetitive. So back to the lifeguards for a second. I had an idea the other day. I was kind of on my way home trying to think about the economy of the game. I ran a test in a different world, different file. I had kind of just threw some rides down, opened it up, and just kind of saw what the economy did, because I've heard that it doesn't work very well, but I haven't seen it yet. And so I see what people are talking about, right? You go through one day and it's like, here's $40,000. And so I think I've got some ideas as to how to counter that. I'm still kind of working through that, but if anyone has found ways to make the game more challenging, go ahead and drop those below, just because I really want to make sure that we're not opening this park and every day we're making, $100,000 and there's no challenge. I want there to be the challenge of building the park and running the park and making sure that the park is successful through having to add new rides, and we need more food, or we need to change this food, or staffing challenges. So I just really want to do that. And so if you have any suggestions for that, go ahead, drop those below. Now, moving on to our slide complex here. This was actually kind of a fun project for me. When you build the slides, obviously we have the Prestige, and I've not looked to see how the Prestige has been impacted since the last update comes out. I've not been able to get in and actually build. This stuff was all recorded a little while ago, but the slides, unsurprisingly, were very low prestige. I mean, you're essentially just going in a circle and there's just water. One of them is covered and one of them is not. But I knew in order to get people to ride these, we had to increase that prestige. And so the thought process I had here was, hey, let's enclose these within rockwork, right? Let's make it look almost as if there's these rock formations and, maybe there's like some waterfall going down it into the water and you're going to slide down the rocks into the water. And so that was kind of the thought process. And so what we did is we went through and we completely covered it. It also kind of helps cover up the junk below the platform and really just kind of bring everything together. And what I think I really like about this is it really does hide it all. And then we'll change the colors, we'll make it kind of work, but it really does just kind of fit the theme. And overall, I am just thrilled with how this part came out here. I also think you are going to see that it really does bring the prestige of the slide complex up, and is going to be to a point where people are going to ride it, right? You're not going to have massive lines, but it's something that if you're in the cabanas and you're over in this pool, right, you might want to ride, right? Kind of again going back to that birthday party analogy. Maybe it's a young kid, right? It's a 10-year-old kid, and maybe they don't want to go down the big slides, but they want to do this. And, depending on how crowded it is, maybe the lifeguards give a little more leniency with it, right? And so one of the things that comes to mind is maybe, you can kind of come down the slide and your friends are, tossing a ball to you that you have to try to catch or something like that. Just trying to think about some of the things that, my friends and I did in our childhood, kind of that same idea here with the slide complex. But that's just kind of the thought here. I don't want it to be really massive. I don't think a big massive slide works here. On the list of possible expansions to the park, we do have possibly adding a slide complex back here, whether that's expanding maybe kind of into the back of house area or completely replacing this. I think both things are on the table. But for right now, for what we wanted for this area, this is kind of what we went with. And so we did that. I will say I do have a gripe with this game. You saw me trying to figure it out there. Once you place the start of a slide, you cannot change it, which is incredibly annoying to me. I wish you could, because we didn't put a bar in there and we needed a bar there, which is really annoying. So, and then we'll go back over to this side, and this slide's a little different. It actually goes a little deeper. It's not just a straight circle. So it's got a little more depth to it, but it's also enclosed, which is part of where I liked this idea of rock, because it allowed us to kind of leave this hollow. We don't have to have rock all the way through there like we did on the other side, because it is. Something I'm going to say, though, this is something I've noticed on a few people's videos, and is really a gripe I have. If you are going to have decorations on the sides of your slide, especially around the exits, please go through your slides and make sure that there is no clipping into the slide. It looks sloppy. And so you'll see we just did that there, and we'll do that a few more times where we will actually traverse through the slide just to make sure right there that we don't have any clipping, so that when you go through, it doesn't kind of break that immersion. But that is something that really does just go a massively long way, and I really encourage everyone to do. But what we ended up doing, and I actually really kind of like this, is we've got kind of this open slide, almost like, oh, you're going over the edge, and then all of a sudden you kind of duck down into the slide itself, and you're going to be in pitch darkness, and I think it's going to be kind of a really cool experience for everyone. And then maybe we'll change that to a clear bottom or something. I don't know. We can kind of look at that down the road. But we are going to change the colors up here, I believe, in just a second. But this is all we are going to do in this episode. So we'll go ahead and stop here as we wrap up the facade of the slide. Next week, we are going to finish the slide platform and adding some decorations before focusing on finishing up this area as a whole with some foliage and various pool decorations and, of course, lighting that are really going to kind of bring the area together. I do still need a name for the area as a whole. So if you have any name recommendations, please drop it below. Would love to hear them. I've really struggled to kind of figure one out. But until next time, make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you next week.